So guys, let's talk some Phil Baroni. And I gotta preface this before I say it. I am not here to kick a man when he's down, and I'm not here to bury Phil Baroni. I am going to repeat things that Phil just said. This was done on Phil's social media that he already put out to the world. So back up a little bit to me to personalize this and Phil Baroni. Phil was a wrestler for Central Michigan. And contrary to maybe what you knew, because he was kind of known for having some heavy hands and liking to go out there and box, he's a pretty good wrestler. Wrestled at 174 pounds, made it to the NCAA tournament his senior year. Phil got a degree and did social work. Many people didn't know that. Store that thought away. We'll circle back to it. So my insertion to Phil Baroni is he gets brought over to the UFC and he gets thrown in there right away with Matt Lindland. And Matt Lindland, I don't know what he was ranked at the time, but he was a top guy in the world. He had never lost a fight. He was coming off an Olympic as well as a world silver medal. And this was like the year 2002. Matt was a silver medalist in 2000, another silver medal at the World Championships in 2001. And this supposedly was going to be the guy that was going to beat him. And mixed martial arts was at a very different time back then. If you could box and Phil could, and you could wrestle and Phil could, you could go to the top. I mean, guys were still choosing. I'm telling you about Matt Lindland because I was cornering Matt Lindland and training Matt Lindland, getting ready for Phil, but we were very worried about it. Matt was a dominant wrestler, but he was just a wrestler. Everybody was. Guys were just starting to be both, but they weren't there yet. That was more of the goal. Phil could do a little of it both, and he wasn't afraid to put a needle in his ass every now and then to help his career. So it was one of these guys that you had to take serious. Plus, he looked the part, right? He looked big and strong. Talked with like a New York accent. He kind of like this tough guy voice. Okay, great. We're in for a fight. Just based on reputation, things that we're hearing, we got a fight on our hands. So they go out, they have their match. Matt beats him. Fairly one-sided contest, but a fairly fun contest to watch. And the next thing you know, Phil comes out to Team Quest to train with us. So Phil's training with us, and he was one of the guys. He was actually living at the gym. It had a shower and had somewhere to cook food and stayed on the mats or however that worked. But he was roughing it and he was in training camp. And something happened between him and Evan Tanner. I was there in the room when it happened, but I was sparring with someone. I could hear it though. They start hitting each other so hard. And Randy Couture was in the room. He had to stop what he was doing and go over and break these two up. So Randy decides after he scolds them, like a puppy that missed the paper, that they've got the message and that everything's going to be fine. So I go back and I'm sparring. I think I was working out with Tim Sylvia. There's only like 6 of us in the room. Randy was somebody, Phil and Evan, whoever I was going with. And no, sure enough, I start hearing the same sounds. And then I start hearing F you, F. Randy breaks them up and now they don't get to go back together. I end up going with Evan or Phil and Tim Sylvia goes with he mixes up the room, but it was just a mess. And then Phil Baroni leaves. And he turns on the whole gym on an internet site known as the Underground Forum, which was a very influential site, but even more so at that time. So next thing you know, Phil's going to go fight Evan Tanner, who he just been out here and trained. He's going to go fight Evan Tanner. I think they ended up fighting twice. And Phil, somewhere along the way, rematches Matt Lindland after he came and trained. He fought Matt twice. He fought Evan twice. I respected it. Those are hard fights. Matt was ranked number 1 in the world. Evan was the world champion. I mean, Phil was never looking for something easy to do. I always respected it. But I also thought, I respected, possibly falsely, Phil was one of the original guys to have a gimmick. Phil used to come out, he'd wear a robe like a boxer would wear, and he would dance a little bit on the way to the ring, and he was the New York badass, and he would hire his own girls, and they'd like dance him to the ring like a pro wrestler. That might sound silly for you, but at that time, that was wildly entertaining, right? This is before the MVPs and the Adesanyas were around. I mean, this was a guy that could entertain you on the way to the ring. He looked the part. He'd fight anybody. And when Phil would win, I mean, he'd knock guys out. Phil was fun to watch. So, but I thought it was a gimmick. I thought like Phil was secretly the smartest guy in the room. I only bring that to you because when he was posting today, one thing that I found humorous, if you can find humor in this. I mean, it was a call for help, and Phil said that. He said, guys, I am asking you for help. I've already been to jail. I do not want to go back. I'm in Albuquerque. I was training at Wax Jackson Wink. Wink kicked me out. I have nowhere to go. My wife stole all my money. The humorous part. the messages were so sporadic and so aggressive that people assumed that he had been hacked. Now, when somebody says somebody's been hacked, nobody's ever been hacked. If you've ever been hacked, great. Show us your bank account that was drained, or show us your Bitcoin that was drained, or show us your credit card that's saved on your phone that was then used. Nobody hacks anybody in the history of time to send out a tweet, right? It's literally never happened. But you're happy to hand somebody that excuse in friendship, right? When a friend lies to you, it's awkward if you catch them in a lie for them, but it's more awkward for you, right? If somebody lies to me, we'll never call them on it. I'll do what a reasonable person does, which is I will go talk about it behind their back. I don't call them to their face that I know they're lying. So you offer Phil, you've been hacked. Phil, at some point in this rant of a timeline, has to take the time out to inform everybody, I have not been hacked. This is actually me, and I need help. And he says, get me a plane ticket anywhere. Get me a one-way ticket anywhere. Now, Phil and I are not what you would call friends, but I've known Phil for a long time, and if he needs a plane ticket, I'm the guy to call. I'll pay, boom, wherever you want to go. Here, what's a plane? I don't know what a plane ticket is, $350 or something. Go. So I reached out to Phil when I'm seeing these things. Apparently he's got a different number, or he's blocked me somewhere over time, which wouldn't be unreasonable. But I haven't heard from Phil. So I did not make this video to embarrass Phil. I made this video to speak to Phil. You need a plane ticket. I'll get you a plane ticket. Okay, for one. That's part one. But the other part is, maybe this wasn't all a shtick and a gimmick. I mean, I thought this guy was a pretty accomplished guy. And he was a pretty educated guy, and he was pretty forward-thinking in his career, and he made some big money and got some big fights with having pretty good skills. But that's a compliment. I mean, there's a compliment. He was able to get people's attention. I don't know if this is what this is, right? That's where sometimes you get lost in the gimmick. I'm a fan who's observed Phil over the years, and I've followed Phil everywhere he's went. He's gone to pro wrestling. He's gone to professional grappling. He's gone to boxing. I watched him box Chris Lieben, by example. There's something there for me. I followed him everywhere he went. But now I'm starting to wonder, did I mark out for the gimmick, or did he?